camera on? Okay. Okay, boys. It's me, Tiago.
This is Lobo Ibérico, straight from the Portuguese wrestling capital, Almada. And you're watching CCP Podcast. Shut up!
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome back to Beyond the Bell. I am Chris Page. That is John Cable. This is another episode. I think it's 32, 33. I
lost count.
I did too. But these are always fun. I really enjoy these programs and never really thought that we'd be where we're at right now. And the journey into independent wrestling has been one that has been very, very interesting and fun, and a rabbit hole that has no end apparently. So welcome back to another show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm glad that you guys have all come back to join us again for another Beyond the Bell. I know that we've thinned out the episodes a little bit, but we want to make sure that we've got plenty of space for our other content, and these are always really fun, and we want to build these as organically as possible with you guys and get into some really in-depth conversations with really interesting people. So here we are, enjoying our day, bringing wrestling from the independent scene straight to you guys in your living room.
Well, we can also be fair. Editing's a bitch.
You got a lot of other shows to do too. You're the muscle behind the channel, man, and you only have so much muscle. I don't want to overwork you.
All right, listen, I understand. I feel like we're going to have a great show today. The beautiful thing about what we've done on our channel, especially with those who have followed along since the beginning, we've been running about 15, 16 months, and, 12 months ago, about a year or so, we dove into the independent scene, which has got
hard.
It just got us to where we are today. And again, I cannot say enough nice things about the guys and gals down in Australia. They've really embraced us and what we're doing with open arms. We've got connections with, I believe, just about every major company in Australia, and conversations being had frequently amongst promoters and various odds and ends. It's opened up the door for Bobby Bishop and myself to sit down and do the Australian wrestling spotlights on the channel, where we get an opportunity to really shine the light on the talented performers in the land down under, because there's a lot happening, guys. And if you haven't dug into the independent wrestling well, you're doing yourself a disservice, because there's a lot going on across the globe, and we have had the opportunity to be right there with it and almost have our fingers on the pulse of it. So today's going to be a fun show. We came across our guest. Actually, John, it was via Pro Wrestling League, which is coming to us out of Australia, and naturally, we stumbled across Bobby Bishop and the Cruise many months ago, but we had a guy hit our screen that we hadn't seen. And when he hit the screen, and this is probably 4 or 5 months ago at this point, he made an impact, and we've had the opportunity to sit down and watch a little bit of the story unfold between our guest today and our good friend Mr. Bobby Bishop. We've got none other than Mr. Jesse Daniels here today. Mr. Daniels, welcome to the show. It is fantastic to have you. I hope all is well down in the land down under.
Everything's going pretty good. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this. And especially having the chance to say my side of the story in regards to Bobby Bishop.
There's a lot that we want to talk about, and I really want to just point out, before we get too deep into the party, guys, right above his head, right above his camera, you see his social media. It's right there attached. It is Devil_Daniels over on YouTube and X. It is Devil Daniels over on Instagram and Facebook. So go ahead and stop what you're doing. go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, and all the links will be down below as well. How we came together, like we said here just a few minutes ago, we're watching back one of the Pro Wrestling League shows on our Inside the Indies, and I we see this Hoss show up and lay waste to Mr. Bishop. So before we get into like some of the more current stuff, first of all, John, my bad, being rude. Want to say hello to our guest.
Hello, sir. Thank you for joining us here. We do appreciate you taking some of your time out to have us talk with you for a little while and get to know what's going on with you and a little bit of the promotions that you worked for and some of your career history. And really just to dive a little deeper into what it is about Jesse Daniels that makes him such an interesting character. We've seen a little bit of your work, not as much as we'd like to, but there's a lot to dive into. And realistically, we're here to just dive in on you. Not just on the Bobby Bishop stuff, but really what drives you as a competitor and as a worker, what drives you as a person, what other hobbies that you entail. Like, this is a much bigger thing than just you, Jesse Daniels, the Devil's Double. But what got you originally to this industry? Where did you start in wrestling? How did you find yourself interested in becoming a wrestler? And who were some of your big stars that you looked up to when you were younger?
Well, first off, once again, thank you. You're allowing me to indulge in one of my favorite hobbies, which is being able to talk about myself. So, already I know this is going to be probably the best podcast of all time worldwide. To answer your question, if we go right back, and I don't want to say how far back, because it's double digits.
Back far enough, I understand.
Far enough, but the first time I got to experience pro wrestling I would have been about 12 years old, and I turned on the TV and I was flicking through the channels of the cable and came across WWE Raw. And what I saw was The Rock punch Mankind, who fell over a barricade down on the speakers, which then exploded. And I said, this is what I want to do with my life. And my poor mum said, oh, this is just going to be a phase. And I don't think anybody's ever been more wrong. After that, I think I would have been about 20 years old, and I tossed up the idea of just like when I was 18 of just like going to America and learning to wrestle, because at the time we didn't really have too much information about the worldwide scene, and it was very hard to even recognize that wrestling was available in Australia and that you could learn it or you could do anything with it. I happened to be lucky enough to go to a pop culture event where they had display of professional wrestling with Brisbane-based wrestlers. And from that, I turned around and said, how do I get involved? And they said, we've got training next week. I go, beautiful, where? They're like, oh, it's in the suburb of Brisbane called Birkdale. I'm like, Ripper, I'll be there. What time? They're like, be there at 9. I'm like, sweet. Took me 2 hours to get there. By the time I rocked up, they said, sweet, now we have to set the ring up. I'm like, cool, I'm at somebody's house. Where's the ring? Where's the training facility? I've come from like a martial art background. Where is the gym? They go, no gym. Backyard, we're going to set the ring up. Took about an hour and a half to set the ring up in, the sun of Australia. Dog shit all over the ground. We set it up, went through maybe an hour of learning chain wrestling, so like not even a need to set the ring up. And then, pack the ring down, 2-hour ride back to where I live, and they go, I'm sitting there and I'm going, that was a little bit bullshit. Like, should I still do this? And I weighed up the choice and I said, this is what I've wanted to do since I was a kid. This is my opportunity to do it, no matter how bad it looks. I'm going to give it everything that I've got. And I think 2 weeks after that, there was a show in the city of Brisbane. And that was my first experience being on an indie show. I was just doing security at the time. Mm-hmm. And about 10 months after that, of like horrible training, and like the training did move to a different facility where it was just mats, no ring, but one of the guys took a liking to me and really drilled me with technical wrestling. And then I had another guy who was here from Puerto Rico, and he started showing me some proper lucha libre. And yeah, 10 months after my first initial show of what wrestling was like in the country, I then got to be on my first match in front of 12 people. I was the opener. By the end of the match, 7 people were watching. And I had to drive for about 6 hours for that show. So the show wasn't even based in my hometown. But, everything got better by increments after that. Like I said, I managed to pick the worst possible time in wrestling for my local area to start doing this. So luckily, all I've ever known from doing pro wrestling in this country is growth. I've never seen it take a step backwards because, I guess that's the benefit of starting at the worst possible time, isn't it? You can only ever see it progress. I think a couple of years after that, there was turmoil in the scene in Brisbane, and the guy that owned the best company had sold it to a fan, and it didn't really look good for anybody. So I was going to stop wrestling, and the guy that started teaching me lucha libre started his own company. I started wrestling for that. Then I took over the running of it for over a decade, and yeah, over time we just saw everything grow and grow and grow and grow, and Pro Wrestling League came on the scene, and everything just kept getting better and better, and now we are where we're at, where people are starting to take notice of us. So it hasn't been an easy road at any point, and probably one where, like a lot of guys, I could have jumped off the train and said, I'm good here, but I've just always wanted to see things through to the end, and luckily, like, I know that by the time I finish wrestling, that everything that's happened here, I've been a part of helping grow it and get to a point where the next generation is going to be able to capitalize on that and use it as a springboard to launch themselves even further. And we've already seen that with guys like, guys like Mark Davis and Tony Storm, who have started from Brisbane, have opened up pathways for other people. And, lots of people from Australia have taken the initiative to go further with their training, with their abilities, and to really help get Australia noticed. And there's so many people doing so many good things for the country and for the scene here to grow it that, yeah, it's remarkable to see how far it's come. And, all it's taken is blood, sweat, determination, and so many tears.
All it's taken.
I'm a little upset and a little bitter that you got to do some technical chain wrestling on day one. I had to run the ropes for 2 hours and leave with welts on my back. And that stayed for a
I'm just,
fucking week.
I think it was just the dog shit. They felt sorry for me.
I'm
Dude, it does
saying-
sound like you had like the classic stereotype induction into indies, though.
That's it.
Man, I don't think anybody else has, like, from where I'm from, has gone through that specific experience. Like, every other time somebody's gone to training, they might have been run ragged with cardio or drills and stuff, but they've definitely walked into an environment where you feel like you're going to get trained. Whereas I rocked up and I was just like every 2 seconds, second guessing myself. Like, I was not as fit as I was not as strong as I was. We did a little bit of cardio and a little bit of like plyometric workouts, like squats and like push-ups and stuff. And I was told I was the only one that didn't have to work on my fitness. And I'm like, you serious? Like, I want to be a heavyweight. I want to like bug a roll, man. Like, I blow away in the wind. Like,
Man,
but yeah.
when you started in the earlier days, and you're 100% correct. So like obviously wrestling has evolved over the last. It evolves every day. Let's be fair. And people didn't, may not know what it was like to break in the early days. Like I broke in '99, and it was a different ball game. I caught the tail end of an indie boom, and then it kind of flatlined in the mid to late 2000s for a little bit. I got out in 2005, so like right there on the cusp of maybe the decline, if you will. Starting at the necessarily the bottom and seeing the natural progression of the business in Australia. Like, what's some of the highlights for you? Like, what's some of the bullet points that you can maybe account to uh, the success that has grown over the years from when you first initially came in and it was down and the business starts slowly starting to creep up? Like, what's some of your memories of seeing the turn, I guess, in the business?
Hmm. That's a really good question. You've given me something I've actually got to think about. I've never looked back on it like that.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I was just about to say, this is where we're at, brother. This is what we do.
For me personally, because I ran shows for so long, so I didn't have the ability to just be a wrestler. I had to do all the other stuff that comes with running a show as well. So being able to like take a back seat and like enjoy that experience wasn't something that I really afforded myself. Um, Definitely when I started, the scene had people in it who had basically given up and were just happy doing like the weekend hobby kind of thing. But there were a handful of guys who, had the um mentality of it, well, if this is my hobby, I want to do it as well as I can. If I go out tonight and decide, I don't know, I want to fly remote controlled aircraft, I'm going to start with something bullshit, but I'm going to finish with something that costs a lot of money and takes up a lot of time because it's a hobby, right? And if you love it, you're going to want to do it the best you can. So I got to be around people that had that kind of a mentality, which is what probably kept me going with it. Um, Definitely, like when my trainer started his company, AWA, it definitely was a turning point for everything. Like, I don't think the scene could have gotten any worse if he didn't do that and take that initiative. And it's the first time that we really got to have an entrance way, have lights, because he came from a background of wrestling in America, and like he did stuff with NWA. He had done stuff with like WWE guys. Like he knew what was meant to be happening, and it just wasn't. So him initiating that and starting it was definitely an eye-opening thing. After that, just my own personal experiences. I remember when I started running shows and the crowd went from having like maybe 10 to 20 to 30 people in it, and they'd bring guys out like Luke Gallows and stuff to try and like name drop and get more like asses and seats, which just didn't happen for them because of the lack of exposure and stuff, and people just weren't putting in the effort. So definitely like having the training that I had and having people like kick my ass along the way helped me start growing things incrementally and little bits at a time. And then, we managed to get a concurrent monthly show called Grindhouse, which was 18 plus in the valley. We started doing shows with 50 people. By the time we finished, we were selling the place out. So every time you go in, there's more and more people, and then you've got people looking at posters and being like, "Oh, this is good." Seeing the boom on social media and seeing people actually start reacting to what we're doing, growing the fan base and stuff, has been incredible. Watching guys that started coming in after me have the ability to get credible training and seeing that in a short amount of time they're able to do stuff that's taken me a decade, that's always an inspiring thing. It kind of makes it go, well, this hasn't been for nothing. If other people are able to start something and in a short amount of time get to where I am, who knows where they're going to end up. you know and then you know a few years ago we did our first big show where we got over 350 people, and I think that was the biggest turning point of all because people didn't expect it, wrestlers didn't expect it, and then they walked into a sold out show and people went, hey, we can actually turn this around. We can get bigger and bigger than this. And then, you've got Pro Wrestling League who's taken that flag and they're just running with it now. And it's just a case of, let's not limit our options. Let's just break through every barrier, break through every wall, and just set new records, make new achievements, do the unthinkable. Because, the guys that run Pro Wrestling League had a starting point not too dissimilar from me, where you never would have thought that you could achieve what's being achieved now. So just for myself, I take, I'm very proud and I'm very inspired by the people that are around me right now and what they're trying to accomplish, what they're chasing, how they're reaching out, and what's being achieved. It's opening so many doors and so many platforms for people. It's amazing. I'd say that, like, I don't think I've fully answered the question yet, but like,
No, you're
definitely
fine.
for me,
You're right in the wheelhouse, bro. You're right there.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely for me, the highlight of wrestling, specifically where I am in Brisbane, is every time I get to go to a show, there is improvement from the last one, and that has been something that has definitely kept me going and never made me want to leave. So every time I walk in and I'm inspired and I get those butterflies, it's a good day. The day I walk in and I don't feel like people are pulling their weight and I don't feel that nervousness where I'm afraid I'm going to let people down, that's when I'm going to walk away.
well, I want to ask you this real quick because you have, a different head for the business because not only are you a talent, you, as you said, you ran a company for a decade. So, what were some of those challenges that, as you were, trying to get the ball rolling and get some of the momentum going for, essentially starting
Definitely,
the movement?
def- definitely for me, I started running shows young. Like I'd been in the business for fuck all compared to guys who had been doing it for like 5 years plus. But when certain things happened and nobody wanted to like pick up the pieces and they were happy to just let things fall apart, I was like, somebody's got to step up. May as well be me. If it's not me, who else is it going to be? And then I had to contend with people who knew I was green and I didn't know what I know now. So when I was going up to guys who I respected and I was pitching them utter stupidity because I didn't know any better, I was just making myself look like a dickhead, which, you're not going to be taken seriously in that light. But young and dumb don't know any better. You have to learn
And you
quick.
don't know what you don't
So
know.
you don't know what you don't know. 100%. 100%. And I would kick myself if I saw myself that long ago. I'd be like, what are you doing? You fucking muppet.
Love it,
It'd
John.
be hard too. But it allows you to grow. And definitely I grew differently. I had a hunger and a strive to succeed because, I had stuff on the line. So the biggest challenge I faced was a lot of the guys that came in just after that or who were around at the time and left. It was hard to deal with talent who wanted to do their best, but at the same time, they'd go to another company down the road, and there's not really, if they can't see what's in my head and the growth that I want and the success that I want doing this, then they don't need to get any better. If I'm booking a guy as like the opener or match two, but at another company, he's the main event, like, I appreciate him turning up, I appreciate him putting in the work and stuff, but I need more. Like if it's hard to explain to people. I need you to grow your presence on socials. I need you to cut this promo by this time so I can promote you. Like pull your finger out and do the work. It was very very frustrating for the longest time because then you'd have guys rock up to the show and just be like, I'm doing the work, and I'm sitting there being like, you're not doing enough work. Like you're giving me the same as the guy down there that doesn't give two shits and he's just trying to make money. So that was a massive hurdle to overcome to try and get people to be like-minded and to surround myself with people who wanted growth, wanted better opportunities, wanted to springboard, because like when I initially started, I was like, okay, when I started running shows, sorry, I had the opportunity. I had like the ability to go to America. Or I had a list of contacts that I'd been put in touch with on the indie scene. I could have had my chance to make it big, to do the territories and to see how I go. And I went, I really want to give something back to wrestling. I've loved wrestling since I was 12 at that point. So, half my life I'd been in love with something that can't love me back, right? And because I just wanted to give back the best way I could, it just kept me always striving and striving and striving. But there were a lot of hurdles. Venues where we come from, like I think over there you guys have like military venues or something like
The
in
armories,
the local community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. The armories, you've got like churches, you've got a lot of
rec
venues
centers,
that can
community
hold pro
halls. Yeah,
wrestling.
there's a lot.
Yeah. Whereas where I come from in Brisbane, specifically, like it's very hard to find a venue that you can work with that doesn't want to charge you an arm and a leg, um, all of that stuff. And if you do find one, it's usually spaced out pretty far apart as well. So then you're like, my local area, I don't just have to advertise within like 20 Ks of where the venue is. I've got to advertise in like 70 Ks of where the venue is to hopefully get people to the show. It was incredibly challenging, especially like Brisbane by itself is a very spread out city. And then, you've got to find a niche within a niche within a niche that wants to come and pay their hard earned money to see local guys do a wrestling show. And all they're hoping is somebody will go through a table, and we don't really get wooden tables in Brisbane. They're the shit plastic ones. So somebody's going to be disappointed. Um,
Probably the guy
once
going
we
through
start
it.
doing, no, I've never heard any complaints. They're usually too winded to tell me. Um, but yeah, it was always a challenge trying to get, grow your audience, get people to bring their friends, get that online presence going, especially like starting it at a time where social media was taking off. It sounds great because it's more opportunities for exposure, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's more people that are going to come to a show. To me, that means it's more people that don't have to come to a show, right? So putting footage up online for free and stuff guarantees that you're going to have an awesome fan base, but back then there wasn't really monetization for stuff. So you be giving the shows away for free, people aren't coming. And you're just sitting there being like, I'm doing the best I can. This sucks. Like there are some weeks where I'm like, I need to put more money into the business. Maybe I just won't eat this week. Maybe my rent can be missed for a week just so that, guys can get the opportunities that they need to get better, to grow that little bit more, to progress themselves and everything that's being done. Like, and I think the biggest thing is that a lot of the people don't understand with running shows the sacrifices that you're making to indulge them and to allow them the ability to do what they do well. Like, there's a lot that goes in. I think this is for most promoters is that they just want to do well. They want to give back to what they love. They probably don't all do it the right way. Some of them probably, being in America, there's probably a lot of promoters that like sky people and do the carnival thing where they just want to take and take and take, and they see it as a source of income for them. But
Bob
I think if
Furio,
you've
right?
got somebody, yeah, I think if you've got people that just always want to give and they'll give with their last breath to this business, like that's where people should be going to. If you're a wrestler, you want to surround yourself with people that want to see you succeed. Like you gotta find the right company for you. And I when I was running shows, I tried to be that company where people could come and you were judged by your peers. You were guaranteed to put on a good show, and everybody just wanted to see everybody get better that little bit. It took a long time to change the mindset to get people to turn around and say, I want to take this seriously. I want to see how far I can push this. Like, throwing that attitude was incredibly difficult. I think Zach's actually, Zach Reynolds is a good example of that attitude because he just gives so much to local shows here, whether he's doing video editing, or he's training, or he's like helping guys, or he's making connections. It's good to see him always keep progressing and trying to do the next thing and trying to help people get to the next level. Because when you're playing this game, you don't know what the next level is. Nobody's got any idea. Next week they could turn around and contact Pro League and be like, TV deal. You don't know what the next level is. You just always have to be ready for whatever bullshit comes your way.
Well, see,
we had a guy on the show. Yeah, we had a guy on the show tell us that wrestling is the one business that you always must be ready for, because if it's ready for you and you're not ready for it, it passes by.
100%. 100%. I've always had that mentality that you got to be ready for opportunity, and it's up to you whether or not you miss out.
When did you in the journey of creating the platform that you've created, when did you get to look at yourself in the mirror and really just breathe that sigh of relief? It's like, oh, okay, we passed the hurdles. Now everything's in the upward. Or have you even made it to a point where you can relax with that?
I think me, because I don't run shows anymore. At COVID time, I stopped running shows.
Mm.
So a year before COVID, I managed to secure a venue that Pro League runs out of now. So, success for our little territory. We found a venue and we kept it, and it's the best venue you can get on this side of the river in Brisbane. Seeing that many people come into a show when, previously I think our best might have been 200 odd, and that was like a highlight for the whole scene. Hitting that benchmark and getting like 350 plus people, and me being like, holy shit, I did it. Like, I did this. Nobody believed in this. I've been getting told that this has been a pipe dream for years and years and years. And I love being able to turn around and tell people, hey, fuck you. What have you done with your life?
What's fucking hilarious about that is the reason that this channel exists, and the reason why I decided to pivot and do independent wrestling is because one person looked me in the face and basically said, "You're wasting your fucking time." That was about 14 months ago. And over the last 14 months, we started with a YouTube channel that had maybe 30 people on it, and expanded it to, I mean, we're what, like 720, 730, something like that. And our Twitch platform, we started from scratch not even a year ago. It's dominated the wrestling genre on Twitch. Like, that's the reason why, is because when someone tells me that I'm wasting my time and it's something that I'm passionate about, like, I want to give you the middle finger. And I want to tell you to fuck off. Like,
100%.
All you've done is just light a fire under my ass.
I think that's something that those of us in any industry that have a self-built, like, grassroots kind of thing, we all sort of share that mentality where it's like, oh, yeah, you told me the odds and they were against me, and now I've got to show you that that's not the case. And I think everybody that's ever been in a position to run a fed or run a channel and do anything in the industry at all has kind of had to embrace that the most. What were some of the, like, you said that it was really difficult for you to get over dealing with the talent and handle those kinds of things. What was the tool that you used to really become not only comfortable but proficient in using the talent the way you needed to get your show over? Because I think that's probably a problem that more than enough fed heads run into, is dealing with the talent and really getting what you need out of them without mistreating them. And it sounds like you had their best interest at heart. So what were some of the toolkits in your bag that you used to get that to work in your favor?
Man, the only thing I can say to that is just fucking up over and over and over and over again. I fucked up so much. Like, every show was a different fuck up.
Show business is like that.
100%. But, you'll learn from your mistakes. And I think the biggest problem I would have had would be not learning from my mistakes. So, along with growing everything, I grew as a person. And, sometimes it's going to go in the wrong direction, whether you've got stresses and stuff like that. But for the most part, just learning how to deal with people, how to approach people, how to request stuff of people, that took time. Like I said, when I first approached people, when I started like running stuff, man, if somebody did that to me today, I would slap the taste out of their mouth, especially the way that I did it. But you learn from your mistakes, and it took me a long time to learn because there were a lot of mistakes along the way. But gradually, it started happening. I think people started respecting what I was doing, whether I was running shows and I was having the best success, so people wanted to wrestle there, or the fact that I actually wanted people to succeed, which was always my goal. I don't know what it was, but eventually people started believing in what I was doing and started like helping me along the way. And I got a lot of help. Like there were a lot of people that I've got to thank, and a lot of people I've got to apologize for because like I was a bit of a dick at times, as you are. But just learning how to approach people better and learning how to work with them as opposed to being like, this is my idea, do it, and realizing that you know, when you're running shows and stuff, it can go to your head quickly, especially if you're like under pressure or if you're having success and you start like getting in your head one way or the other, whether it's ego or whether it's like disbelief in yourself, you're gonna react differently each time. So you just gotta learn to deal with yourself and approach people as people because at the end of the day, if you're running a show of like 200 people, that might be great for you, but it's realistically, it's also bugger all. Like, it's not hard to get 200 people somewhere.
And yet
No matter how
sometimes
much
it can
work
be
you're doing.
impossible. So no, it is a perspective
100%.
thing.
100%. But it's just treating people with that respect, treating people how you would like to be treated, but also just navigating that field. Because if you're dealing with a roster of like 30 different people, that's 30 different attitudes that react differently to whatever you're saying. Like, it's not easy. Trying to balance all of that is absolutely terrible. And yeah, like, I feel bad for most bookers out there that have to deal with that because I know what that's like and it's a pain in the dick.
Well, and it's a thankless position too because nobody's out here trying to help the promoter promote himself. They're all looking at the talent, and you're definitely the bad guy as the guy in charge.
Yeah, yeah, you're always the bad guy, but that's people
Even when you
always
aren't, you are.
Yep.
yeah, people always want more, and you can only give what you can give. Like, sometimes a lot of wrestlers let things go to their head sometimes, and how do you deal with that? No, like you're a weekend warrior. You don't actually want to succeed. You just want to come in, make your money, have a good billing so you can sell more merch, like, and then leave straight away. Like, how do you deal with that when at the same time you don't have anybody else? You know,
Hmm.
like there have been times in like this specific like Brisbane scene in the past where there wasn't anybody training, so you had no choice but to use people that you'd rather not.
What's the training scene look like there now? Because I know since COVID, the schools have exploded over there, and your guys' industry as a whole in your market has gone from we can't find talent to fill a ring to we've got so much prime talent in a ring we can't book it all.
Like, looking around Australia, the training is absolutely incredible. I think one of the my personal opinion on wrestling in Australia is if we go back to the 60s and 70s, we had WCW in Australia where you had guys like Harley Race, Ric Flair, etc. coming out here because it was the place to be because we had the best wrestling on the planet. And then they'd go back and they'd tell people, and we get more people back. That allowed like guys like Spiros Aaron, Mario Milano to go at MSG and headline. So we've always had incredible talent in Australia, and incredible trainers in Australia. And I think for the longest time we just lost that exposure. But when we're talking about the training schools in Australia, from like the east coast to the west coast and all the way down south in places like Adelaide and stuff, you've got guys that have gone overseas. They've honed their craft for years and years. They bring that knowledge back. They drill everybody constantly. I think that's the thing with Australia is that you don't really have the ability to wrestle every week, but you do have the ability to train 3 to 5 times every week if you want. And I'm a firm believer in the harder you train, the better your quality in the ring is. Like, the training should suck, the match should not suck, right? So you have the ability to just train a lot more than you have the ability to wrestle. And the guys that take advantage of that really do excel when they get on shows. They've got hours and hours and hours of training behind them. I've had this argument in the past with people where they go, "Oh, but you need match experience to be able to
You need ring
excel
time.
yourself and learn your craft."
It doesn't have
You
to be
need
on a
ring
show as long as you've got the ring time.
100%. And like, that was always my counter, is like, I would train 3 times a week if I was able to. Like, that was not always with another trainer. Sometimes that was just by myself. Like, put some mats down and do some rolls and just like hone my own stuff, try and get myself better. And then next time I was with a trainer, I'd do a roll and he'd tell me if it was shit or not. Like, that was my experience. And then if I was lucky, I would get to wrestle once a month, maybe once every 2 months. And, you know, all you can do is prepare for that. So luckily I come from a background where I am big in preparation leading up to something. And for myself, being able to train a lot more than wrestle allowed me to do a lot more. And it allowed me to get to the point where I could wrestle consecutively if I needed to. There have been times where I've wrestled multiple weeks in a row, multiple days in a week, doing tours and things, like traveling around Queensland and stuff, and not be sore, not get injured. Like, it's allowed me that opportunity. Whereas I think, the guys that train once a month, once a week, and then wrestle, especially in Australia, you can see the difference in the quality and in the different shows that Australia produces. Even in the local scene here, you can see the difference on the guys that are on Pro Wrestling League as opposed to any other fed in the state where you've got other people working.
Well, I think for us, like, we hit Australia, I think, at the right time. We've been watching.
Oh, dude, we lucked into the most perfect run into the market of Australia that we could have ever run into.
And I say that because
100%.
I really like Redshaw out of Riot City Wrestling. He's the first guy who ever said yes to doing a sit down with us like this. So like, that guy's near and dear to me, and we kind of chat frequently, a little bit back and forth. And I told him today, actually, I was like, we were talking about something that had to do with his character, and giving him my opinion and my take on a current storyline, and I was like, you're hitting a different tone and a different level, and I've been watching you and I can say this because I thought about it. I was like, how long have I been watching him? It's
14, 15
it's been
months.
over a year.
It's been a little over a year.
So that led us to seeing, okay, there's an indie here in Australia. There's something here. Well, now that led to discovering. I think it was Pro Wrestling League next. It may have been Wide Bay that was next, and then it was Pro Wrestling League, and then it was Renegades of Wrestling, and then it was Wrestling Rampage. We came in at the right time and were able to sit down and watch some of this stuff evolve, and now specifically over the last 8 or 9 months, really dive in. There's a lot happening in the market there, and there's a lot of fantastic pieces of talent there. And Australia, like I said at the top of the program, has a near and dear spot to me because it's accepted us and what we're trying to do for our channel and what we're trying to do with our fan base and growing the networking. And you mentioned Zach Reynolds earlier. We have a standing date with Pro Wrestling League whenever the shows are out. They come, we sit down and we make the time because you guys have made the time for us. And
I think we have more. I think we have more feds from Australia that are on our must-watch TV, and when they drop episodes, we cover those shows than anywhere else on the planet. There are several that we cover guaranteed, but Australia has the most markets that we don't miss on our channel ever. You guys have a gold mine of talent, and the shows that you put on are not just good shows, and it's not just decent growing production. The thought process behind them is well put out, it's well put together, it's well thought about. You guys treat it with the reverence and the respect that the industry was missing for a long time, not just there, but everywhere. And it's a breath of fresh air to look into the market in Australia and see all the things that we miss as wrestling fans flourishing there so well. And I think it is the diversity and training that you guys have that really brings that out in the programs that you run there that we don't get to see a lot in other places. Even here in the States, yeah, there's a ton of academies, there's a ton of training schools, but weeding out the good ones from the bad ones is hard. And you guys have managed to build a network of schools and promotions there that are really pumping out some of the best work on the planet.
Man, I think that it's one of those things. Everybody loves Rocky because it's a epic underdog story, right?
Rocky's a legend in his own right.
Whatever the current equivalent of Rocky is in movies these days, I think that since we lost the TV deal for wrestling in the 70s, Australia always had remarkable talent, but we had no exposure. And I think when you're the underdog, you just fight tooth and nail for every scrap you can get. And for the longest time, we've just gone scrap after scrap after scrap. But it hasn't stopped anybody from being tenacious and saying, I want to do this better. The people that come in and go, I want to do this for myself, they don't last very long in Australia. The guys that come in and go, I love this. I absolutely love wrestling with a passion. I want to see it succeed. I want to see it get better by the time I leave. They're just absolutely ruthless when it comes to grabbing opportunities and growing things. And there's a lot of people in the Australian scene that have come and gone and that are still around today that have to be thanked for that. Because I think, like me, a lot of these people remember what it was like when they started, and they've helped shape, not just their places, but the entire nation in how things could be, and to never stop striving for stuff. And I think, with Brisbane specifically, like we could talk about like Sydney and like PWA and stuff, or like Melbourne and MCW and Renegades of Wrestling, Wrestle Rampage and Riot City and Adelaide. You've got EPW in Perth, but Brisbane, we've got Pro Wrestling League, which the rest of the country has taken notice of, and we're putting out excellent products. We've got excellent minds behind the scene. We've got people that just want to make the scene better. They are not in it for themselves. They just want to see everything get better. And I think when you come into it with that perspective, it's going to take some time, but you are absolutely guaranteed results that you can't see when you start.
When we stumbled into Pro Wrestling League, and again, this was how we follow all of our programs, is the lovely YouTube algorithm on my YouTube page. So through Riot City, like Pro Wrestling League popped up, and I said, "We'll watch this." And it happened to be the show where Outback Adam won the championship. So that was how our intro into PWL started. And
you got caught on the Steve Irwin gimmick, didn't you?
Yeah,
no, dude, no. Look, it might be that might be a little bit of the perk, but Adam has got it, dude. He has got everything going for a superstar. He's got the crowd involvement. He's got the gimmick moving. He's got everything that an entertainer needs to have. Yeah,
meant to be talking about me.
Well, but it's not just him though. You guys as a whole, it's not just your locale in Brisbane. There's a lot of things going on in Australia, and you guys have a different kind of market that has moved past the I'm worried about me. Like you've been saying this whole time, it's the guys that have been promoting Australian wrestling have been promoting Australian wrestling. Not just them, not just their company, not just what they can do for them, but the market as a whole. And I think for us looking at you as a market, we have to appreciate how well you've done as a whole market together, because that's really the special thing about the Australian market is you guys work so hard on the market, and it isn't just about who's getting over. It's about the entire thing getting over and getting back to that historical point that you were in the 70s when WCW was running training camps and they were pulling all of your talent to go do international shows. You guys are getting right back there, and it's taken this long and this kind of exposure that social media has allowed you to garnish to get back into that limelight. And you guys have seen it, have taken that ball, and you have run with it. And it's all up to
100%.
what you guys have done with the project and the program that you've built on the backs of so many people giving back to the industry. And I think that that's something that you don't get to see in wrestling on the mainstream at all, and on the indies very rarely. And you guys have it in spades down there.
You know, you can look around wrestling in the world, and you know, we can say lucha libre, and instantly you're thinking like Puerto Rico, like Mexico, these kind of places.
Brazil,
you know,
yeah.
you say what? Yeah, Brazil. You go, you know, technical wrestling. You've got British style, Canadian style. You know, you mentioned like fan interaction, American style, straight up character work and stuff like that. You come to Australia, and we've got a little bit of mixture of everything, but we've got that tenacity. You know, we're so competitive. We're such a sports oriented people. We just go after it. It really is Australian style. I don't know if that translates to the ring so much as we've got that backstage. We've just got that Australian spirit, that little bit of energy to just be like, yeah, you know, it doesn't matter if we're in the shittest place we could possibly be. We're gonna get out of this. And I don't know if that translates to the ring as an Australian style for wrestling. We've definitely got our own way of doing things and our own way of succeeding, and the ability to work in with each other and to share knowledge and to grow collectively, which realistically, if you think about it, like with Australia being as widespread as it is, that's a pretty incredible thing in and of itself. You know, you're not going to see somebody on the east coast of America work with somebody on the west coast of America. Like, there's too much distance and there's too
On a
much
regular
crap
basis,
to get
yeah.
distracted by.
Yeah, that's rough.
Right. Yeah, but in Australia, you know, you've got like the top companies and the top schools all working together, all growing together, all pushing each other. Any little bit of information is shared. Like, it is very unselfish, and it's amazing that so many people are finding success without being in it for themselves, and everybody's just trying to give back to what they love. Like I said, the guys that come in and try and look after themselves, you know, they're gone pretty quickly. People know to stay away from them. You know, the scene's pretty protected in a good way from people like that these days.
Well, I was bringing up the Pro Wrestling League. Obviously, that's where we came across you, and how we came across you was with your story with Bobby Bishop. We were alluding to that at the beginning of the show. I had my segue set because we've seen every show since that initial show where Adam won the championship. So we're up to snuff as far as that is concerned. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on here and now, but also a little bit about the character work. How did you come up with what you're portraying with the gimmick on the not the gimmick but the devil moniker, if you will? How does that come from, and how do you get there?
So, you know, if we go back a few years, I was just like a generic wrestler. Like, I think my first foray into wrestling, I had tassels and stuff, and my name was actually Louis Hardwood.
Dude,
So it was kind of that, like,
you'd have hated
what was
me.
the name of your first bet? What street did you turn up? We're gonna do your porn name as your wrestling name. Right?
You'd have
But I
hated
was
me.
actually fan favorite. Yeah, I was fan favorite. I was fire. Like, people loved me, man. Um, I wanted to be heel, and I always felt like I wasn't being authentic to myself because I had the idea of like Jesse Daniels from when like I heard how Shawn Michaels came up with his name because Michael Shawn Hickenbottom isn't going to be able to sell tickets, but middle name, first name, swap them around. It just so happens that Jesse Daniels is my actual name, just not my surname, right?
Hmm.
So for me, coming up with Jesse Daniels was easy. Evolving it into the Devil's Double took some time, and I always look back at myself and ask whether, as a wrestler, whether or not I am doing enough. And Yeah, I felt like I needed a tagline being like a bad guy, and I thought, what's the baddest thing that people envision when they think evil? And I'm like, well, Satan, the devil, Lucifer. And I'm like, well, you can't be more bad than that. That's like peak badness. But you can match it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can be the same. You can push him to be a worse cunt, which will make you become, and you can just keep elevating, right? So I'm like, well, I can't be any different to him, but I could be just like him. How am I going to say that I am identical to him? Like saying I am the devil's identical to it. It's just ridiculous, right? But I think I was watching a show about body doubles, and I just went, why can't it just be devil's double? I was like, oh,
That
that's a
rolls
good
off the
idea for
tongue.
somebody. Yeah, I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
good idea for somebody. I'm like, oh, hold up, that's a good idea for me. I'm going
He
to
was
do
about to
that.
hand his whole gimmick to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was always just trying to help people, so I always put myself on the back burner. So at one point, I was sitting there. I had my tagline. I was the Devil's Double Jesse Daniels. And I'm sitting there going, I'm wearing black trunks. I'm coming out with a denim vest. And I sat there and I went, I was just having like a philosophical moment. I went, I'm a wrestler. I'm a professional wrestler. 12-year-old me saw, I don't know, 27-year-old me, he think pro wrestler. And I sat there and I just ripped myself apart. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way that a young me would look at what I was doing at the time and go, that's a pro wrestler. No fucking way. So I completely reimagined my whole gimmick as the devil's double. And, grew my beard out and, started growing my hair long because I used to always have my hair long and I cut it short because I thought that would be a good idea.
Oh, don't do
What
that
wrestler
again.
goes, short hair is a good idea? I was a dickhead. Grew my hair out, grew the beard, and, I was already a bad guy. And I'm like, what I love about wrestling in general is that it's an art form. We wrestle on a canvas, therefore we paint the canvas however we want. I've seen matches that deserve to be hung up in the Louvre, but it is what it is. And I think, to go off topic for a second, wrestling's a niche within a niche within a niche. But, you look at certain kinds of artwork like minimalism, that doesn't appeal to all the art critics. You're only going to appeal to a niche group of people that like that specific art, and I think that's what we're dealing with. But
Fandoms,
as I was
Chris.
saying, exactly. But I ripped my entire character apart, and I'm like, I always wanted to come out with a coat. How come I don't come out with a coat? So I got myself a coat, and I got all my gear, and I always pay a lot of money for my gear. So anybody listening, I am happy to accept donations, of course.
Links down below, guys.
Sponsors.
This
Let's go.
this beautiful jacket you see hanging here is a 4-figure coat for a independent wrestler located in Brisbane. Like,
It's an
I
investment,
love this
sir.
shit. It's a gorgeous investment. Is it?
Uh.
And for the small price, you can have a share in this investment. But I've gone so off topic. I've
No,
digressed so
you're
horribly.
totally fine.
No, you're right on the
I would-
topic, guys. The links for the sponsorships will be down below. If you're checking it out on the VODs, and the merch store will also be down below. Don't forget, click those links and buy those shirts, guys.
But yeah, I completely ripped myself apart, and the thing that I love is that you can interpret this however you want, and I think the more people that interpret it their way, the more it appeals to different people, and you can grow your brand. So for myself, I went, it's wrestling. We are not limited by anything except our extensive reach of imagination, right? And I think wrestlers in general are the most imaginative people in the world because we go out and fight in colorful tights and we believe in what we're doing and our imaginations, they're gone. We believe in ourselves more than anybody else because if I went out into the street and I saw some boy wearing tights and they tried to fight me, I would just giggle. But For wrestling, it just makes
Here
sense.
I
The
am.
guys wearing jeans and the guys in wrestling who wear jeans, fucking weird. Colorful tights,
I
that
agree.
makes sense.
I agree.
But yeah, I ripped myself apart, and I actually just before COVID time said to myself, we're not limited by anything. Okay, I'm going to create my own country with my own passports, with my own citizens, and that's going to be my gimmick. So I became Devil's Double Jesse Daniels, Supreme Ruler of the Daniels Republic. And I had my little faction, and I came out with like massive Daniels Republic flags, and people believed in what I was doing. I would do interviews, when they announced me, they'd be like, and coming from the Daniels Republic, the Supreme Ruler. Like, it was a big take on North Korea, but in wrestling. And I even went so far as to like order my own currency and such. And there was
Nice.
I started
That's
selling
merch
shirts and,
opportunities.
I refused to sell a shirt to somebody because they were trying to use Australian dollars instead of Daniel's Republic pounds.
I have to get
So,
this
yeah.
in real quick. Because you mentioned tassels. And you used to have tassels. So,
I had tassels.
I'm going to tell you one of my favorite ribs. What I used to
You'd
do.
have hated him.
You'd have
You'd have hated him.
I was the guy that would pull one tassel. If I got in the ring with somebody and they were wearing tassels, I would pull one every time I was in the ring with them.
That's okay.
From a different
I had
location.
like 100 on me.
I would just start.
Couple months into the feud, you'd be a lot of tassels less, I assure you, sir.
I got that. I remember Kurt Hennig used to do that rib all the time.
We're still only talking 4 or 5.
Yeah, I took that one from Hennig.
And they were bad. Like, they were bad tights. Like, it would spiral up my leg, and like the tassels just spiraled up my leg, and like yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And like I've got the same thing. My pet peeve with wrestling is guys who wear shirts. Like, nothing against Kevin Owens. Like, that's his gimmick. It's completely different. Guys who decide to be unfit in this industry and they go in and they wear a shirt, I fucking hate that. Like, if I've got to stand there half naked, how come you get to cover up? Like, you're not trying to sell
I wore a
anything.
shirt and tie. You'd have hated me too.
Shirt and tie is different. That sounds like a gimmick. Shirt and tie is not like your average shirt, right?
No, it was a button up and a tie, and I was in a suit coming to the ring for the most part of my career.
I'd have been the guy.
That sounds good.
I'd have cut the tie.
It does until you actually have to wrestle in it and you're sweating your ass off. Then it's not so good. Then you're like, God, will you just rip this off of me real quick?
Yeah, but it's the gimmick. You gotta do the gimmick, right?
Yep. Sacrifice. It's the blood, sweat, and tears part. You never know what you're painting the canvas with until you get on it.
Exactly, and you're committed to it, because like, who in their right mind would go and wrestle in a shirt and tie combination? Like,
a commissioner.
That's dedication in and of itself. A commissioner. There you go. It makes sense. Like, if you're running a professional company, it doesn't matter, how many people are in the building to watch it, but you're showing professional wrestling, so you at least have to play the part, even if the advertising for the show hasn't been the best. You can't let the people that paid their money not think that it's professional wrestling.
You dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Exactly.
That's why I've got the coat.
That's correct.
I just said this just hit me. I remember you said there's something earlier about wrestling in front of 12 people. I got you beat. I think the lowest crowd we had was like 2 or 3 at one point in time. And
yeah,
I've got you beat.
Oh, this is a first.
I've got you beat.
Hit me.
I once did a show because it was on tour, so it's not technically a wrestling show, but we're on tour doing wrestling throughout different towns. I started wrestling because I was getting paid. I even asked, I'm like, do we even have to do this? 0 people.
Yes, you have to do it because everything's going to be on the camera.
By the time I was done, with what I had learned at that point and how I wasn't like a shit wrestler at that point, we had pulled 100 people from the area to come and watch what we were doing. But initially, I started wrestling that day in front of 0 people, not a soul.
Oh, no, you do. Yeah, maybe you win. I yield. I yield. When again we came
I'm
across
sorry.
you,
I broke the record.
you have. It's yours. You're the man. We ain't
I
beating,
want
and that's the show. We ain't beating that, folks. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. No, in all seriousness, when we saw you storm on the scene, you know with Bobby, you guys just had a really good dog collar match. Um, I did. I did bust his balls because nobody said, "Hey man, I want you to be my Valentine." Yeah, going back to old school Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine, because
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
Bobby and I meshed up. Was he was watching us review one of the shows and he hit the bionic elbow and I wigged out and did my whole dusty over the top deal, right? So DMs were sent, and of course we say wrestling brings people together. A loss, here we are. It's a very similar situation. You were able to stop in on the stream as we were watching pieces of that back and watching the show back. Let's talk a little bit about that story because that, for my perspective, because I don't know the backstory, and I feel like there's something there because that got awful heated, awful quick, and I don't think we're done. Which
No.
Yeah, there's a lot of real life tension involved in this. So prior to COVID, I ran my own company and I ran a training school and everything was great. And me and Bobby, we were actually best friends. You know, this is a guy who I would hang out on weekends with, who got close to my kids, like who I would delve into my personal life with. Like we were proper friends. And yeah,
Sounds like Paige and I.
just before COVID, I had things happen in my personal life. I went through a big breakup with my wife and stuff. Like things were said, and he took that opportunity while I was at the lowest point of my life to turn around and pretty much take the training school from me, take the company away from me. And granted, I wasn't in the best frame of mind at that point, so you could say in hindsight that's for the best. In hindsight, I say, well, that's 10 years of my blood, my sweat, my tears, my stress, my sacrifices, everything that I've gone through to get the success we are getting today. And I get none of the credit for him coming in and saying, this is my training school, when he didn't have to start it from nothing. So there's a personal grudge there. And, you know, personally, in my opinion, like, I believe you can do whatever you want in life as long as you're willing to stand there and defend it. Or as long as Bobby's willing to stand there, defend his perspective of the one coin with the different side, I'll continue to punch him in the face. So that's my personal grudge with Bobby. He can be a great guy to everybody else, but if you watch, I think it was a few shows back, yeah, I attacked him, and, I cut a little bit of a promo on him, talking about how he manipulated people against me. But you can hear somebody in the crowd yell out, yeah, that's what he does. So as bad as I am, as evil as I am, and the things that I've done, I will stand by them. I will stand up and say, yeah, I tried to take Bobby's career from him with a concerto. I had a smile on my face when I did it. He's not going to turn around and say, yeah, I screwed over my friend. I've got no problem turning around and saying I screwed him over. Or I beat him to within an inch of his life. I've got no issue saying that. That's where it comes down to. Until I get what I'm owed, I will not stop going after Bobby. He calls himself undeniable, but I did say I am here to deny Bobby Bishop, and I will do that with my last breath.
what happens next? I mean, you just came off of a dog collar match. There's you gotta have a layer, and I'm not asking you to dive too deep into the bag of tricks or reveal anything that you're not comfortable with revealing by any means. How do you how do
Well,
you see this
at the
moving
moment,
forward?
at the moment, it actually shocked me during the match because I hit my finisher on him. Now in what 15 years of wrestling, I've only ever had one person kick out of my finish. So I really did hit that, and overconfident as I was, I believe that I had him beat. I didn't expect him to kick out of that, but he did. And then I got put in through a board. I got hit with a pile driver on a chair. So yeah, he won the battle. But personally, I don't think that I am done with Bobby Bishop. I've still got until I don't have this grudge, this you know thing on my shoulder, this monkey on my back. Whenever somebody says Bobby Bishop, I don't think that I'm done.
What do you think
So
that'll
who
take?
knows how far it goes? And I've got time. Like personally, for me, every time I get in the ring and do something to Bobby, it gives me the opportunity to get a little bit more sadistic each time. My favorite thing about this feud is I still haven't done my very worst to Bobby. Like I've got so much more I can do. I've been holding back this entire time. You ever see a cat catch a mouse and it doesn't quite kill the mouse? It
Yes.
just fucks with it for as long as it wants. Like at any point, I can fuck with Bobby how I want. Compared to me coming into wrestling, he had it easy. I'm the last of an old school generation that got the absolute shit beaten out of them if they wanted to get into this industry. So, no matter what Bobby's willing to dish out, I'm willing to take it. I will have the last laugh. I will
So
punch
it
him the hardest.
definitely does not sound like reconciliation is even in your purview for the future.
Man, if I had the opportunity of having a match for the heavyweight belt, or getting my hands on Bobby Bishop in a parking lot at the shops as he's filling up his fuel,
I know where there's
I'm
a
going that
fountain.
way. Yeah, I don't care. As long as I get the opportunity to get my hands on Bobby. Yeah, who knows what's in the future? I'm pretty sure the promoters are going to try and keep us separate for a bit. But if I was Bobby, I sure as fuck wouldn't be turning around celebrating.
No, not even
That's the thing
kind of.
about war. It doesn't
I,
matter if
I
you lose.
I don't know what to expect next with that because again, coming across it and just seeing what we've seen over the last couple of months, you started with a dog collar match. This
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's a deep spot to
that's been our
start.
first proper.
Yeah,
I'd say
that's
that's
a
been
that's
our
a deep
first
spot to
proper.
start.
That's our first evenly started match. To be fair, we did have a match prior to that. Um,
sure.
not my fault. He started beating on somebody that clearly wasn't me. But this is
Well,
also
no,
wrestling. Like,
it's all a part of the game. It's a mind that in that
and
aspect is a mind
I
game.
will say on that note, just before we move on from it, but let's not call this a loss on my part with the dog collar match because you guys would have seen the match and you guys know how wrestling works. You know it's a no DQ. So I'd like to know why the fuck the referee grabbed the chair out of my hands when I was about to inflict so much damage. I would have won the match. There was nothing stopping me from hitting him 1, 2, 10, 20, 50, 100 times with that chair. No rules against it. Why the fuck did the referee get involved and take that away from me?
You know,
It's
Daniels,
not my fault.
the one thing I've always found is when you have questions like that in the vein of those things, the one thing that you can always count on is if you follow the money, you find the problem. So that might be something to investigate there.
I'm interested in finding out. I've already contacted management and gone that whole route because it shouldn't. I've got a mark against my name now. I've got a loss in that column when, and vice versa, it's no DQ. There's no reason the referee couldn't do it at the same time. That why would he get involved? I guess on my way to getting back to Bobby, I could always have a match with the referee.
There you go too. I feel like you got a leg to stand on there because I think we may have even talked about that on the stream when we were watching the show back. Is how do you DQ somebody, or why are you pulling a chair in a no DQ match, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Damn good question, anyway.
Now I didn't know that the issues were that deep rooted, and if we steered the ship in that direction, and if it pushed some emotions, we apologize. That was not the intentions of.
No, that's fine. I have had people say, we both understand what happened. It's just one coin. We're seeing it from different sides.
Yeah.
And to that, I say, I don't give a fuck. I only see my side. And on my side, I have faced an injustice. And I am dealing with it the best way I know how, which is with my own hands. And, these days in society, you can't really do that anymore. Some guy bumps you at the pub and you drop your drink. You're not allowed to have a fist fight these days. You might get an apology. He might buy you a drink. He might tell you to fuck off. What can you do?
The glory about contracts in a combat sport.
Exactly right. In wrestling, I can hold a fucking grudge for as long as I want. And as long as it puts a smile on my face, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Puts a smile on your face and put some money in your pocket. That's all that fucking matters at the end of the day.
Did you see my face after I concertoed him? I didn't stop grinning for like 3 weeks. I was so happy. And it was brutal. Like, all credit to Edge and Christian, but they need to take notes on that concerto. That was beautiful.
I will say those are solid shots.
I can't.
Well, when you're trying to hurt somebody.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware how easy it becomes.
Let me ask you this: with your longevity on the scene down in Australia, like, what are some of your favorite moments that you've been a part of outside of crushing Bobby Skull? Because we've just talked about that, and or beating Bobby.
Oh, how do you take a step back from the peak? I've had remarkable matches like in Australia again. I had a match with a guy called Smash Face Mitch McCarthy, who you would have seen on the Pro League shows a few years back. We had a wonderful hardcore match, no DQ match. That was a thing of beauty. I believe that's on the Pro League channel as well, but you've got to go back. Every time I got to face one of the guys that I respected, whether it be like, guys like Esteban Molina, AJ Istria,
Istria.
God, Mitch. So many guys. Every time I got to face somebody who I looked up to was just such a monumental moment for me that took my breath away. And you go in there nervous as fuck because you don't want to fuck up and you just want to, do these people the service that you believe that they deserve because you hold them in such a high regard. So personally, for me, every time I got to have a match with somebody like that, it was just absolute peak and me seeing myself get to the next level as a wrestler. I've got a quick mouth, so every time somebody in the crowd would say something, and boom, I'm on it so quick to give it back to them. Also,
you seem like you have fun doing that.
I do have fun doing that. It's fun to find different ways to tell people to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in Australia we're so diverse with our colourful language. There's always a new way to say it as well. So, yeah, I like interacting with the fans. I hate the fans interacting with me.
Facts. It's so much. Back in my day, again, this is different times, but I was a heel. I always was a heel. I was never a babyface. Couldn't do a babyface. I more power to those out there who can go out there and do that. I'm not a kissing.
I've been told that I've got a face that looks like it needs to be punched. And
you do, and it works. It works for you. Like it's one of those situations. I ask you like about some of the moments that are special to you because obviously, as we talked a little bit before we hit the record button, professional wrestling right now it's at a place that I've never seen before. There's a lot of things that are happening almost on a daily basis right now. What started for us in Australia moved to Portugal and into the UK, and of course we've got some stuff happening over here in the United States and as well. But everywhere there's this boom, and it you this for me it takes, and John, it takes us back to the old territory days of the
Mm-hmm.
70s and the 80s, where you here in the states you had Crockett, you had New York, you've got Texas, you've got Florida, you got Portland, and all points in between. Everywhere was red hot. And for you to have the longevity that you've had with your career, to see where it started, where it began, where you didn't have really a pot to piss in, to see that it has come so far. Like what, and knowing that you played a role in that. Like, let's be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are individuals all over Australia who are detrimental to this fact happening and to this being a thing, especially in the Australian market. I mean, you get the Bassos down in South Australia. You get, Brooks is in Melbourne right now. But I mean, all these guys have been all over the place. And to see that piece, to see the success, like what does that mean to you? And knowing that you are heavily influenced into what's out there right now, and to double down on the question, what do you see for the future? Not just for Australia, but maybe the independents all over the world, because I don't see it going backwards, which is a beautiful thing. I only see it moving forward, and I'm just curious to see your perspective on it.
Um, to answer the first part of your question, seeing it get to where it is, I guess for myself, it's kind of justification in the fact that I was right despite so many people telling me that I was wrong and to do something else, believe in something else. You've got talent, do this, do that, do that. There were times in my life where I could have, like, you know, gone and done sport in Australia professionally, and I turned that down because this is what I wanted to do. I remember being, in my graduating year of school, and the counselor being like, "Well, what do you want to do once you leave school?" And answering her, "I want to wrestle professionally." Like, it's always been such a pipe dream, and people have always taken it as a massive joke. And even when I tell people I'm a pro wrestler and they laugh at it or they make jokes about it, or even like I've had people go to Mexico and they bring me back like a bullshit lucha mask from the markets when I've got like $500 masks downstairs that I have professionally. Like, for myself, it's just justification that I took a gamble on myself, and I think a lot of the people that grew something from nothing in Australia, they should be really proud that they took a gamble on themselves, and they may not necessarily get the payoff from it, but so many people have benefited from it. So for myself, it's just that justification. Like, there was a reason why I believed in myself, and who knew where it would get to. Like, right now, we're able to sell out shows in Brisbane, and I think only a handful of people would believe that, if even in the community, if you told them that was your goal. So many people would have scoffed and laughed and like disregarded it and said it's not possible. And doing that first sold out show with like 360 odd people, whatever it was, justification. I achieved what I said. You gotta remember, when I was 12 years old, I saw The Rock punch Mankind, full on speakers, fireworks. I go, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I never said that I wanted to be signed by WWE. I said I wanted to do professional wrestling, and I want to do that the best I can every time I get the opportunity to do it. And there have been shows that I have done in the past where somebody has watched them, somebody's contacted us for training, somebody's then trained with us, somebody's then gone on shows, somebody's gone on to hold heavyweight gold, and to lead the next generation. So it's that justification that what I did start out doing has had a payoff in regards to how far it can go for the next generation. There's other people in charge of the scene now that are running shows, that are doing training, but I don't see anything taking a back seat. I see everything progressing forward because the people running stuff have a very similar mindset to me in let's not acknowledge what we can't do, let's acknowledge what we can do, and let's do that, and let's do that the best that we can. Let's keep pushing this. It's not the fact that we're on a roll right now with shows and everything's getting better. Like, you know, even if you go to Vegas and you bet red 100 times and you get 99, you're going to lose once, right? What's happening now is the result of so many people being dedicated to their craft, to networking, to putting on the best shows, to having the best match, to having the best move, even if it's just a headlock, just to give back to their craft. And as long as that mentality stays in place, I think it's going to have everything succeed. That, you know, and likewise with success, you're going to see people come out of the woodwork that see it as a money grabbing endeavor and they just want to be in it for themselves. But I think at the moment, the way that things are, wrestlers are knowledgeable and there's enough camaraderie among people that if something along those lines were to happen, more people would steer away from it. And I think they would prefer to do the hard yards and see growth than take a quick paycheck and see everything take a step back and be responsible for that. So, in my mind, wrestling in Australia, it's been on a rise for 15 years. I haven't seen it go back, you know, once or twice maybe, but not very far before it got pushed right ahead. So who knows where we end up? You know, 2 years from now, the government could very well be building specifically wrestling themed buildings throughout Australia just to excel this. Who knows?
Well,
You don't know your own limitations if you don't reach them.
it's again. I want to touch on this real quick, and John, then I'm gonna come over to you because you always have a really good question to start winding things down. With the growth here recently, like, and I say growth, I don't. It's not the word I want to use. WWE coming down earlier this year for their pay per view, and AEW is on the way. And I believe WWE's announced that they're coming back for another show next year, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Now there's all this attention, and I think it has a large part to do with guys like Bronson Reed, Grayson Waller, Rhea Ripley, Delta
Soraya, Mark
Soraya,
Davis,
yeah,
Kyle Fletcher, Tony Storm.
yes, so, all these talented people. Like Delta Brady just debuted fucking 3 weeks ago. I think the world is finally starting to wake up and see that they've been sleeping on something, and I'm very curious to know, like, how did you feel about the world finally seeing for themselves? Like, I know that there's the sense of, when someone tells you no, et cetera, et cetera. But like now, the rocket ship is attached because now the major promotions here in the states are looking like the eyes are on them. So, what's that been like since this boom nationally, and the lights nationally are now coming down on you guys?
There's obviously a lot of pride in it because I think I said it prior. We are the underdogs of underdogs in Australia. People, for the most part, even around the world that are into wrestling, did not know wrestling in Australia existed. Even if you go back and you look of the history of Australians throughout the world, like the Fabulous Kangaroos or Ron Miller, Mario Malone, Spiros, all these guys did big things. Like wrestling's always had its own thing in Australia. It's just always dwindled. So I think ultimately the next step isn't so much getting people from around the world to notice us. I think it's getting people in our own backyard to take more of an interest in us. I think right now that's going to be the best thing for us is the more people that are exposed to wrestling locally in different regions of Australia, the more that's going to have a likewise outreach, and that's going to help grow the community as well. Because it doesn't matter if you're like the best wrestling company in, I don't know, Zimbabwe, and the rest of the world knows it, but you're wrestling in front of a handful of people. You've got to grow your own local thing, because even though the last thing that I think most people, we want everybody to succeed, but if all the big companies start signing everybody from Australia that's got talent, we're going to have no talent left. That's when we will take a back seat. That's when we will lose that experience and that knowledge, and it will get taken away from us. So I think continuing to grow the local product bigger and bigger and bigger until, we can stand on our own 2 feet. We can have our own stadium shows. I think that should be a goal that people strive to succeed together with each other. That way, we're more inclined to work with WWE and AEW as opposed to potentially losing a handful of talent, which would be remarkable for everybody. But there's nothing saying that we cannot have our own WWE or TNA or ROH or AEW based in Australia. And I think that if people attack it with that focus as opposed to going, oh, it would be great if I got signed. Like, it would be great if they're listening. It would be great if I got signed. But there's nothing stopping Australia from having its own version of the top 2 companies in the world.
Facts.
I think if that's what we strive for, like, if history proves, if that's what we strive for, that's what we will get based on our hard work and our determination. And I think if you put Australians against anybody else in the world, our hard work, our determination, our resilience is just going to beat us there.
Well, and the level of talent's there. It's there, and there could be. I 100% agree. I think a run could be made. John, let me come over to you.
Well, first of all, I just want to tell you how happy it makes me to hear you say that you have goals that are focused in your space and your market, that is not getting people signed out of your market. Because I hear a lot of people in the industry, and especially in the indies, their goal is always, I need to get a contract, I need to get signed, and what you're saying is the thing that I've always thought, even on the indies here, we don't need to work for a contract. Yeah, that would be great if we got offered one. But how cool would it be to build your own brand and get there yourself? And I think that is a lacking perspective in a lot of people in the industry. And throughout our conversation tonight, you have mentioned that realistically, the thing that's kept you doing what you do and got you to the point that you've gotten to is your perseverance to do it in spite of how many times you were told it was the stupid thing to do. What advice can you give people, not just coming up in the wrestling industry, but in general? People need the ability to persevere. But how do you maintain that idea in your head and not get beat down by the naysayers? What advice can you give to young people coming up in every industry to keep their heads screwed on straight and really keep their eye on the prize on the horizon?
Man, I would say the first thing I would say to them is, just because you love it does not mean it's going to love you back. If you are passionate about something and you love something and you say, and I had this discussion with another wrestler just 2 days ago who told me that he loved pro wrestling, and I called him out and I said, bullshit. You have not been through half the shit I've been through. You take it easy. You don't train. You wrestle when you want. Fuck you. Don't tell me you love this. You have no idea what loving this is like. If you are passionate about something, say you want to be a pilot, or you want to be like, Admiral of the Navy, or, you want to be an archaeologist, it's not going to be easy. But if you've got that passion and that drive and you believe in you, that's the main thing. And there have been so many times where I have not believed in myself in doing pro wrestling, and I have said it's better to throw in the towel. Like a few years, like going back a few years, I had a broken back from like wrestling. I managed to recover from that. It took me a year and a half to repair 3 cracked vertebrae and 5 herniated discs. And the first thing I did was wrestle, knowing that I could break my back instantly, be paralyzed instantly, face death instantly, to change my life completely. I love this. And if you love this enough, you will go through the pain. And anything that you go to do, acknowledge there is going to be pain. There is going to be sacrifice. I cannot tell you how many birthdays and Christmases and weddings and time with friends and having those relationships with people that you need that I haven't disregarded, but I have had to put to the side to focus on what I'm doing and working on the vision that only I can see and that only I believe in. Because I had a friend tell me ages ago he wished he could see what was inside my head. Because my ability to just imagine the impossible and to chase that imagination, and nothing I ever do is going to reach that level. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to, right? So anybody that's chasing anything, if you want to do your own thing, if you want to be an Olympic athlete, acknowledge that the road there is going to suck dick because nobody else can see your vision except for you. And you've got to be willing to not lose sight of that. You've got, like, when everything is against you, knowing that you have the opportunity to get to that mark, you can't close your eyes. You can't blink on that. You can't lose focus on that. You always just have to be running for that finish line of whatever your goal is. If you start to listen to the people that are telling you you can't do something, that's what you're going to end up believing. And you're going to live the rest of your life miserably talking about how, I once tried to do this, but it wasn't for me. Fuck that. I would much rather go out swinging and say, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, therefore, here is the last 15 years of my life, even if they were in front of 30 people to 500 people, right? Whether or not another person will class that as being a professional wrestler, a successful professional wrestler compared to myself classing it as that, that's a completely different thing. So if you believe in something, don't let anybody talk you out of it. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. They don't know how determined you are. They don't know how much belief you've got in and of yourself. You can't let people turn around and give you an assumption of yourself when you don't even know how far you can go. All you have to do is believe in your own ability to fail, because you're going to fuck up. But you're going to learn from that, you're going to progress yourself, you're going to get better, and at the end of it, you're going to have so many people patting you on the back and saying, well done, and the whole way there, they couldn't give two fucks. That's how it goes. Only you can see your own success. Don't blink, don't lose sight of it. Chase it with everything that you've got, because even at the very end, you fuck up and you fail, and something goes bad and you're not able to do it, at least you can hold your head up and say, look at what I did along the way.
Facts. I don't even know if we can beat that.
Nope. Nope.
I
That was the
can.
profound moment of the night.
Mr. Jesse Daniels, this has been fucking great. I know that we've ran.
Thank you very much.
We ran a little longer than anticipated. Definitely would love to have you back on down the line if you're keen to come back and chat with us. Is there anything that you want to plug on the way out? Is there anything you want to say to the audience?
There is. So just two things. First off, so I've actually got a website where my merch will be at within a week. Apparently the website will be up and running, which is good, which is kickout.com.au. So that is a indie merch website based in Australia where you will be able to buy merch, not just my merch, I'm assuming the whole Pro Wrestling League's merch site, as well as I'm sure many other people in Australia. So make sure you check out kickout.com.au. That should be up and running within a week from now, which would be, I don't know, let's say the 20th of November.
Links down below.
Math.
Yeah, it'll be out by the time the episode's put together. It's already up. Link down below. But what else do you got?
Lovely. Coming up, make sure that you follow there is so much good in Australia. So get your eyes on products, whether that's like MCW, Renegades of Wrestling, Wrestle Rampage, Wrestle Riot, Riot City, EPW over in Perth, All Star Wrestling in Sydney, IWA based in New South Wales, Y Bay Pro Wrestling in Queensland, Atomic Pro Wrestling in Queensland, IPW in Queensland, Pro Wrestling League, my home company. Give everything a crack, get onto it. Pro Wrestling League's next show is coming up on the 14th of February, which for me is the perfect Valentine's Day gift. Whether you're a man or a woman or however you choose to identify these days, you can show your love by buying your partner a ticket to Pro Wrestling League's Super Show event. And make sure you get behind it, show all the love and support to your local products, whether that's in Australia or in the UK, Canada, America, it doesn't matter. Like I said, if you help grow your own local company, you don't have to be in the ring to help wrestling succeed, right? You don't have to sign on to be a referee. You can just choose to sit in the audience, love it however you love it, and your help and your support will see your own product get better and grow. And if you've got friends, drag them along, because wrestling is for everybody. It doesn't discriminate. I do. I've got a grudge against Bobby. But wrestling in and of itself does not discriminate. And failing that, make sure you follow me. All of my stuff is up here or here or here. I can't currently see, but it is mystically around me right now. And as always, everybody loves seeing me beat Bobby within an inch of his life. So love the sin, hate the sinner. And hopefully I'll get to chat with you guys in the near future again.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, guys, before we get ready, John, I'm going to come over to you so you can tie a bow on it. As he just said, right above his head over on YouTube and over on X, it is at devil_Daniels. On Instagram and Facebook, it is at Daniels. Please go over, give him a follow on all the social media platforms, and go down below and check out the link to the merchandise for the Australian independent talent. You never know what you're going to find. You never know whose merchandise you may come across. And what you can do with it all. Support. The easiest way to do that is to follow, share, subscribe on YouTube, and just promote. All you have to do is retweet. It's free. It costs you nothing. It costs you nothing but a click.
And everybody appreciates it so much because we don't ignore the fact that somebody helping us grow is helping us grow. Nobody gets success without having people around them that want it for them. So everybody, like I speak for every wrestler, referee, person who does the ring crew. Like we all appreciate the fans getting behind us and helping us get better and better and grow, and showing their support for us definitely allows us to maintain the successful path that we are on. If it wasn't for the fans, we would probably not be doing this for anybody but ourselves.
Infamous Gene Simmons quote: "Without the fans, we are nothing." John, take us home, man.
Well, that may be true, but without you, the fans have nothing to entertain themselves with. So we appreciate all the efforts that you guys go to put into this craft and hone it to the best of your ability. Like I said, if it weren't for you guys putting your lives on the line to entertain us, we wouldn't have anything to entertain our fans with, and our fans would be just sad, lonely people without a hobby. And I'm glad that you guys do what you do, because I appreciate my life a whole lot better with wrestling in it, and I know that for a fact. But if you guys would like to get more wrestling in your life, go down below, follow all the links, drop those savage elbows in the ding bell where they belong. You guys know where it is, behind this curtain over here. We've got all kinds of new products coming out. We've got interviews with fabulous, entertaining people like Jesse Daniels, the Devil's Double here. And we've got so much more coming down the line, guys. We've got all sorts of things beyond the bell, beyond the curtain, behind the ring bell, behind the ring posts, and I think up a couple of Paige's skirts here and there around the tables where he be fixing things. And we've got all kinds of new stuff coming out. You can find it early right there in our Discord. But it's been a fabulous pleasure to have you with us, sir. We do appreciate you spending your time with us. We look forward to having you back again. And I know that our fans do as well. Until then, though, guys, it has been a pleasure. We love each and every one of your faces. Until then.